Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting informed on topics that, well, really matter. Today, we're plunging into something huge, a question so many of us ask. What is my purpose?
Mhm.
I mean, it's a question nearly a billion people have actually typed into search bars. It shows this universal longing, right, for a life that feels meaningful.
It's definitely a profound quest, and to help us explore it, we've pulled some really powerful insights from Oprah Winfrey's book, The Path Made Clear, Discovering Your Life's Direction and Purpose.
Hmm.
But this isn't just, one person's view. It's more like a rich tapestry, weaving together wisdom from spiritual leaders, artists, public figures, all sorts of people. Our mission here is really to extract the practical wisdom, maybe some surprising insights from these diverse voices, hopefully to help illuminate your own unique path.
Exactly. And what we're going to explore today is this idea that honoring your calling, it isn't just about what you do. It's more about embodying who you truly are. The book presents it as like the greatest gift you can offer or receive, and ultimately how you really fully come alive. Okay, so let's begin. Let's unpack that very first step. It often starts with these subtle internal stirrings. Oprah calls them seeds of knowing.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is how, well, universally, these seeds seem to be sown. Pastor A.R. Bernard, he emphasizes that everyone has a purpose, but, and this is important, he says how you apply that changes as you live life from one level to another.
Hmm.
So that really highlights that purpose isn't some fixed destination, is it?
Right. It's dynamic.
It's dynamic, yeah, an evolving process. And Barbara Brown Taylor, she adds to this. She reminds us there are goodbyes as well as hellos in our callings,
Mhm.
which implies, calling doesn't necessarily have to be for a whole lifetime.
That idea that your purpose isn't static, I think that's a really powerful reframing for a lot of people. And it connects straight to Oprah's foundational question, what do I believe?
Mhm.
She puts it out there, and I think this is incredibly impactful. You become what you believe. How do you see that belief showing up in these early seeds of knowing she talked about?
Well, it really plays out in how those early inclinations or experiences are, either nurtured or maybe dismissed. Look at Nate Berkus. His childhood curiosity about how spaces looked and felt, his mother constantly validated that. She believed he was going to be special even though he struggled academically, F's and D's. Her belief in him, it fostered that innate curiosity, and it shaped his entire career in design. It was like a clear seed that was allowed to grow.
Yeah, that makes sense. Or Ellen DeGeneres, right? She built this whole comedy career on her unique way of noticing the little spaces between the things that everybody else paid attention to. That seems like a classic example of an inherent trait, just a unique way of seeing the world, becoming a calling. Or Sister Joan Chittister. She felt this profound, really early calling to become a nun. She was just 3 years old at her father's funeral. The comforting presence of the nuns, her mother described them as special friends of daddy's and special friends of God's. That experience imprinted a purpose on her so young. It's amazing.
These stories, they really illustrate that our purpose isn't always some like grand lightning bolt moment. It often comes from these inherent qualities or early fascinations, even profound childhood moments that kind of whisper to us long before we consciously think of them as a calling.
Hmm.
The key seems to be learning to pay attention to those first, often subtle, nudges.
Okay, so following those early stirrings, those seeds, it leads us into the next phase. And this is where things get really dynamic, I think. This idea of the whispers and the clouds, those subtle nudges we get, and then, well, the inevitable resistance we all face.
Right. Oprah explains that passion whispers to you through your feelings.
Mm.
And she makes a really key distinction here. She says there are unavoidable external events, like she mentions the devastating Montecito mudslides she went through, but then there are personal struggles. And those, she argues, are almost always preceded by internal whispers. She describes them as like ding, 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 ding
Hmm.
moments,
Hmm.
a clear signal that we're maybe not using our life to its highest and best potential.
And that restlessness so many of us feel, it's framed not as a curse, but as a gift, a sort of wake-up call pushing us towards something different. Caroline Myss talks about our innate intuitive voice, our conscience. It constantly signals when we're not being totally honest with ourselves or when we're betraying ourselves, like staying in a relationship 12 years too long, she gives as an example.
Mhm.
Yeah, this voice guides us, apparently. Tells us you should push, or maybe this is it, you've done everything you can. It sounds like this constant internal feedback loop, doesn't it?
It really
Yep,
does,
there you go.
absolutely. And this connects to Oprah's philosophy, which is quite powerful.
Yeah.
Once you've genuinely done everything you can, you surrender, you let go. You're not attached to the outcome. Glennon Doyle's story illustrates this so well. She initially ignored what she called the annoying tap from God telling her to write. But when she finally listened to that internal nudge and shared her unfiltered truth, like a list including her struggles with addiction, it just unlocked people. It created this deep connection and, well, her purpose.
That raw honesty, that willingness to actually respond to the whisper, it's incredibly powerful, isn't it? Adyashanti talks about the wound of being disconnected from our true being. He says it often leads us to seek fulfillment externally, through love, approval, success.
Yeah.
But he says no matter how much external fulfillment we get, we still feel kind of estranged from our own being until we acknowledge and embrace who we really are.
Yeah.
That ties right back to those whispers telling us when we're off track.
Exactly. And then come the clouds. So if the whispers are the internal nudges, the clouds are that inevitable resistance we encounter. Stephen Pressfield, he wrote famously, "Most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance." It's this internal battle, right? It can show up as procrastination or fear or self-doubt. It's the force trying to keep us from our highest purpose.
That internal battle is so real. Ayan Levenzan says the real fight isn't even with the world. It's with that part of us that says, you can't do that or don't do that. And this resistance, she suggests, often comes from a fear of vulnerability or just the sheer unfamiliarity of stepping outside a predictable struggle, even if the struggle isn't good for us. She emphasizes that the core ingredient of trust is vulnerability. And trusting yourself means being willing to stand alone, maybe be different. That sounds like a huge challenge to our comfort zones.
It absolutely is. And the resistance, it often comes in disguise. Think about India, Ari's Grammy experience. Nominated for 7 Grammys, won none. People called it the India Ari shutout. But what seemed like a really painful failure at first, it actually transformed into a breakthrough. It boosted her album sales, and it taught her these profound lessons about inner self-talk and, interestingly, fearing both failure and success. That cloud of perceived failure actually became a catalyst.
That's fascinating. And Oprah herself, she faced intense resistance with her own network. She talks about initially feeling embarrassed, and she put it as got her butt kicked by the critics.
Yeah, I remember that.
But then she had this aha moment and realized building a network was actually a privilege. And she constantly taught the girls at her academy in South Africa, you are not your circumstances, you are your possibilities. And also, don't just break the ceiling, reach for what's beyond. Her tenacity, just her refusal to bet against herself once she was committed, it's truly inspiring.
And Elizabeth Gilbert, she offered such a beautiful perspective on this internal resistance. She came to realize her demons and monsters, as she called them, were actually just orphan parts of herself, her fearfulest, most terrified parts. So she learned to sort of mother them with love and compassion, basically taking charge of her inner world. It's a way of integrating those clouds of fear rather than just fighting them.
That's a lovely way to put it, integrating them. And Janet Mock's story is another powerful illustration of this. Her father told her boys are not secretaries, which led her to compromise her authentic self for a while. But then at 15, she made this definitive decision. She said, I am not going to present in a way that makes anyone else comfortable. I'm going to present in a way that makes me comfortable. She just declared herself Janet, embracing her true self against all that resistance, internal and external.
Yeah. And Mindy Kaling observed something interesting, too. She said in all her unsuccessful relationships, one of us was not able to say I, basically, to stand in the I, to own themselves.
Standing in the I.
Ultimately, I think what these experiences show us is that real growth happens when we face these resistances, head on. We learn to see obstacles more like detours, not dead ends. And our purpose gets clearer as we navigate through those clouds.
Right. Overcoming those clouds, navigating the resistance, it leads us perfectly into this next part, the idea of the climb. That sense that purpose requires sustained effort. And then connecting that to the give and the reward, showing how real success is deeply linked to service and sufficiency.
The metaphor of climbing a mountain is just so apt here. As the book says, it always looks easier to climb when you're at the foot of it.
Yeah.
And Nick Ashford, his original inspiration for Ain't No Mountain High Enough, it wasn't just a love song, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, it was about his unwavering determination to become a professional songwriter. That level of commitment, that's a powerful picture of the climb.
Wow, that adds a whole new layer to that classic song for me now. And it's a great reminder that every moment, really, is an opportunity to be of service. Maya Angelou taught that so beautifully, didn't she? People may not remember what you did or what you said, but they always remember how you made them feel.
So true.
She challenges us to think about our legacy today, not just someday in the future. You know her famous line, when you know, teach. When you get, give.
Hmm.
How do we see that idea of the give playing out in these different sources?
Well, we see it in so many different forms. Brian Stevenson, for instance, he embodies this. He talks about measuring life by how many stones you catch, meaning how often you step up to help those in need. Sometimes you have to run to the problem, he says, not away from it.
Running to the problem.
Yeah. And Thich Nhat Hanh speaks about the power of deep listening or compassionate listening, how that simple act can allow others to empty their hearts and suffer less. That's a profound form of giving. Even Marianne Williamson points out that big societal changes often come not from the majority, but from these small groups of people usually considered outrageous radicals by the status quo, those willing to give their all to push boundaries.
So it's about active engagement then, whether it's direct help or listening deeply or even challenging the status quo. And Deepak Chopra talks about the spiritual journey moving from just soul consciousness towards unity consciousness, where we start to realize we are all inseparably one. Charles Eisenstein expands on that, saying anything that happens to anything, to any being, is happening to you on some level. He even links suffering, addiction, self-sabotage, rage. He links them to ways that we withhold our full participation in the program of life. It all seems to circle back to this idea that our individual well-being is just deeply tied to our connection and contribution to others.
Precisely. And this connection, this give, is actually part of the reward. It's about redefining what true success even means, moving beyond just material gain. Oprah herself says her financial success came because she was focusing not on money, but on her purpose. The real reward, she found, is that lasting contentment and self-respect that comes when you are living out the truth of who you are. It's an internal measure, isn't it? Not external.
Absolutely. Sarah Ban Breathnack's story is such a profound example of that. Her book, Simple Abundance, it sold millions. She became a multimillionaire. And then she lost it all.
Wow.
Yeah, but that experience taught her that success is cyclical, it's not constant, and that money just can't compensate for a life that's not being fully lived. She realized she wasn't writing to have a hit book. She was writing to change her own life and to speak to women's hearts. That's a huge distinction, right? Creating from internal purpose, not for external validation.
It really is. And Goldie Hawn articulates this perfectly. She says, accolades, awards, they're just a moment in time. They don't define your importance. She defines herself by her ability to give, the ethics, and by my truth. Jeff Weiner from LinkedIn echoes this too. He explains how failure humbles you, makes you realize how fleeting success can be. He argues self-esteem shouldn't be based on those traditional measures of success because they're often outside your control anyway.
And Trevor Noah offers such a beautiful, simple truth from his own experience growing up. He says, when you're poor, being poor sucks, but being poor together makes it a lot better. That ability to focus on the human beings around you when you don't have too much, that's a powerful, often overlooked kind of reward. It reminds us that connection can be the real currency.
Definitely. And William Paul Young, author of The Shack, he had this aha revelation when he lost everything financially, and it brought him joy, he said. He understood that the opposite of more isn't less, it's enough.
Enough, yeah.
And he saw how money could actually block other people from learning necessary lessons because it interferes with their fear. This concept of enough is so critical. Lindquist sums it up with the idea that what you appreciate, appreciates. Basically, letting go of chasing more frees up energy to nourish what you already have. It helps us move beyond that myth of scarcity that drives so much of our striving.
That feels like a real paradigm shift, moving from chasing more to appreciating what's already there. And Jack Canfield, he delivers what he calls the ultimate secret. Just be yourself, but be all of you.
Be all of you.
Yeah. He argues the greatest wound we carry is being rejected for our authentic self, and that leads us to hide parts of ourselves just to get external approval. But mastery of self, of emotions, of relationships, that's the ultimate purpose, the ultimate reward that can never be taken away like material things can. It sounds like true fulfillment really comes down to authentic self-acceptance and connection. Okay, so after exploring all these different facets, the seeds, the whispers, the clouds, the climb, the give, the reward, where does that leave us? It seems the ultimate realization is actually profoundly simple. It's captured in this idea you already know.
It's a powerful truth, isn't it? And it's interesting how classic literature and film can often hold these deep spiritual teachings. The Wizard of Oz, for instance, is described in the book as one of the great spiritual teachings of all time. Dorothy's journey down the yellow brick road, it's not just a physical trip. It's seen as A hero's journey back to her true self.
Right. And the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, they represent the disempowered parts of herself, the parts she thought needed fixing by some external wizard. But then comes that pivotal aha moment with Glinda the Good Witch. She tells Dorothy, "You don't need to be helped any longer. You've always had the power." It's like an external validation of an internal truth she hadn't recognized yet.
Yes. And remember when the Scarecrow asks Glinda why she didn't just tell Dorothy sooner?
Yeah.
Glinda replies, because she wouldn't have believed me. She had to learn it for herself.
Uh-huh.
And that feels like the core message, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We often have to go on the journey, face the challenges, the lions and tigers and bears, oh my,
Right.
to finally realize what was inside us all along.
Which leads right to Dorothy's ultimate realization at the end. If I ever go looking for my heart's desire again, I won't look any further than my own backyard, because if it isn't there, I never really lost it to begin with.
Yeah. Elizabeth Gilbert found that same kind of self-sufficiency too, that profound comfort in knowing I've got my own back.
Yeah.
I'm going to be all right. It's that deep internal knowing that you are capable, you are whole. Sean Aker uses a great metaphor for this. The pitcher nearby. He says whether the glass is half empty or half full doesn't really matter if you realize that life is the pitcher, full of abundant possibility right next to it. We often miss the full picture because we're just focused on that one element, maybe our perceived lack or struggle. In Ellen DeGeneres, she distills it to such a simple, profound truth. It's wonderful to be loved, but it's profound to be understood. Understanding ourselves, perhaps, being the first step. The path back home is always there, and it begins inside.
What an incredible journey we've taken through these really powerful perspectives on purpose and resilience and, well, true fulfillment. The central thread that seems woven through every story, every insight, is that the answers, they often lie within you already, just waiting to be acknowledged and acted upon.
It truly does boil down to something very simple yet profound. As Oprah herself realized from a grieving mother who shared her son's last words, the son said, "Oh, Mom, it is all so simple. It's so simple, Mom."
Wow. So simple. So, as you go about your day, maybe consider Oprah's guiding question that she took from that moment. How am I making things more difficult than they need to be? Maybe ask yourself, what is one thing you could simplify or perhaps release to make your own path clearer, starting right now? And remember to nourish whatever it is that makes you feel confident, connected, contented, because as Oprah says, opportunity will rise to meet you